Hello and welcome to your new moon video for the new moon of the 16th of June 2015. And we're also going to take a look at some of the aspects for the week ahead. So this will serve as well as a week ahead forecast. Starting with the 16th, let's start with the new moon, which will be new in the sign of Gemini and in the nakshatra of Mrigasira. Mrigasira is ruled by Mars, and every one of the Mars-ruled nakshatras, such as Mrigasira, Chitra, Dhanishta, all of the Mars-ruled nakshatras have a certain sense of dissatisfaction, which leads to a particular process. And with Mrigasira, the process is one of looking for desire fulfillment, a dissatisfaction with the present course of events, and looking for fulfillment of desires, a new way of putting something together. And actually, Mars and the Sun have been traveling in close proximity to each other through this nakshatra over most of the month, and the Sun will soon shift out of that nakshatra later on in the week. But there's a very desire-driven tone to the week and a tone to the new moon. Over the course of the week, we also have aspects between Venus and Neptune forming a tense angle known as a quincunx. Saturn and Pluto, two very big powerhouse planets forming a minor aspect with each other, but because they're such intense planets, a minor aspect between those two planets is something that can very powerfully be felt. Also, the Sun and Saturn forming a tense aspect, Venus and Pluto forming a tense aspect, and a harmonious angle between Jupiter and Uranus becomes exact towards the end of the week. But on the 16th, the same day as the new moon, Venus and Neptune will form an angle of 150 degrees with each other. And this angle is known as a quincunx. Venus is now in Leo, and in a section of Leo that's called Ashadha. And Ashadha is ruled by Mercury. And Ashadha-driven processes can carry one very deeply into whatever the situation might be and cause one to explore every single nook and cranny of the situation, because Ashadha is connected to serpent energy. And as Ashadha is ruled by Mercury, the important thing to remember about Venus is considered the minister in the royal court of planets. So when you have Venus and mercurial energy mixing together like this, there's a process of refinement. But the issue with this particular aspect is the tension between Venus and Neptune having recently shifted to retrograde motion is in Purva Bhadrapada. Processes that are connected with Purva Bhadrapada take the abstract and bring it down into concrete form. And with Neptune being retrograde, there's a sense of going over the details of what inspires you the most. But mixed up within this process, you could find yourself getting caught up in the form of something rather than taking a look at the deeper essence. Quite often, we get caught up in the illusion of form and get attached to that form when something that we're desiring could actually be achieved if we look at the essence rather than attaching ourselves to the particular form of the situation. So there's a refinement process that wants to take place, but likely some difficulty with that process because you're getting too caught up in how you most want things to be in terms of how things are inspiring you, rather than accepting that you might be able to have your cake and eat it too if you just don't become quite so attached to the form or the outcome of the particular situation. Later on in the week, on the 20th, Saturn and Pluto become exact in an angle that's called a semi-square, which is, by all intents and purposes, half of a square. And a square is a 90-degree aspect, so a semi-square is a 45-degree aspect. Now, both of these planets are very slow-moving planets. Saturn takes a little over 2 years to transit a sign, whereas Pluto takes about 15 years to transit a sign. So this aspect has been forming for a while, and it will also take a while for it to separate. And with this particular energy, we need to keep in mind that Saturn, a day prior to the 16th, on the 15th, actually shifted backwards into Scorpio. It made an entrance into Sagittarius back in late December, and now it's recovering old ground. And with Saturn's processes, when Saturn retrogrades, what we're doing is we're crystallizing and gelling the information that we've already learned. But there is a negative polarity to this process that's going on with Saturn in Anuradha, which is connected to devotion and determination. Saturn's actually in a section of Anuradha that can make it so that out of a sense of devotion or determination to have a particular outcome, that you get stuck. Whereas with Pluto in Capricorn and Purva Ashadha is about being real and being authentic and being true to oneself. So actually this process of being so determined and devoted to things turning out in a particular way can get you into a space where you're not really able to be true to your true desires. In order to explain that a little more deeply, let's backtrack to the Venus-Neptune aspect and take a look at the fact that you're getting caught up in the form rather than the essence of something. So you can be true to what you want if you can get out of this stuck, determined, and false sense of devotion area that's kind of keeping you in a position of being stuck in the past rather than allowing yourself to move forward. On the 21st, we've got two aspects, one to Saturn and the other to Pluto. Sun in Ardra Nakshatra is going to be forming a tense angle with Saturn, again in Anuradha, and Venus in Ashadha, as we mentioned earlier, is going to be forming a tense angle with Pluto. Both of these angles are called quincunxes, and they're minor aspects. And as the Sun and Venus are relatively quick-moving planets, this should separate over the course of a day or two. And with this particular energy, let's look at the Sun first. The Sun tends to bring things to light. It sheds its light on things. There are other aspects of the Sun, such as being very steadfast and burning brilliantly. But it's more the aspect of the Sun that brings something to light that we want to look at with this particular aspect. The Sun in Ardra, which is related to effort and a very lively mind, that's the word I want to use for it, because Ardra is actually ruled by Rahu, and it's also connected with the early part of it is also in Gemini. So it tends to bring a very obsessed mental side to things. And with this particular aspect, a lot of ideas and options begin to come to light that were you able to sink your effort into them, you would likely be able to find that you begin to gain some ground. But as this is forming a tense angle with Saturn and Anuradha and Pisces, again, there's that stuck energy of being stuck in the past, of going, things must work out this way. I want it to be this way exactly, and I don't want to accept any compromises. I want it to be my way or no way. Well, actually, on a certain level, you could have it your way, but you're too attached to the form of something. Venus in Ashadha is going to be forming the same tense angle as to Pluto as the Sun is forming to Saturn. So again, let's look at Pluto and Purva Ashadha. Pluto processes tend to shed away everything that's not right for you, regardless of whether you want it or not. And Pluto and Purva Ashadha, where the ego is being peeled away at layer by layer, is going to be related to getting to the truth, the essence of what it actually is that you're wanting. What is the essence of that? If you could refine that essence, what would it be? But due to Venus being in a section of Ashadha that has a very Leo tone to it, there can be the tendency to think that your egotistical mind knows best in this particular circumstance, rather than trusting in what the soul is beginning to give you hints of. Again, there's still that stuck energy of going, well, I know best in my mind what the way it should be, and I'm going to make sure that it happens in that particular way. Now, on the 22nd, Jupiter and Uranus form an aspect with each other of 120 degrees, and that's called a trine. It's a harmonious angle, which means that these two planets are working in harmony with each other. Jupiter is in Magha Nakshatra, whereas Uranus is in Revati. Okay, so there, with Revati Nakshatra, there is a space of things being on hold, being in between spaces. And being in between spaces can sometimes serve a positive purpose. Some adjustments are being made. There's some things being set up for the next phase of your life, where with Jupiter that wants the expansion, that's looking for the growth, is in Magha Nakshatra. And with Magha Nakshatra, there can be the tendency to become very firmly encased in something and a gathering of strength in order to expand, since we're dealing with Jupiter in this particular case. So there's a process of balancing out that is going on. And if you're willing to look at some new solutions to some old problems, or look at a new way of perhaps advancing your particular situation, or even look at what you're desiring in a completely revolutionary new way so that you can get to the essence of what it is that you actually want, well, there can be a few unexpected twists and turns in the road that actually lead you in a very positive and powerful direction. So the advice in general over the course of the week is don't get stuck in the past. Allow yourself to move forward. The more you hang on to the past, the more you're not going to get anywhere. The more you're willing to go along with the changes and go with the flow, the more you're going to get swept along with it. Now, this is going to affect everybody in a different area of their lives, dependent upon where this particular aspect is falling. And in order to know that specifically for you, I'd need to take a look at your personal birth chart. If you want me to do that for you, I have a vast range of astrological services that are available through the link further down in this YouTube video. There's also a link further down the page in the description area. If you enjoy this subject of nakshatras, I should mention that later on in the year, in the autumn or the winter, there will be a nakshatra course that I'm doing with a fellow astrologer, Ryan Korzak. You'll be able to see little hints and bits of that course, as we're going to release some videos for free on YouTube so that people can watch. So keep your eyes out for that as well. That's going to do it for your new moon video for the 16th of June, 2015. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.